Let's do portfolio planning, like from the beginning, because that's kind of where we wanted to start.
So, first of all, it's those conversations up front about priorities. What's success look like? What are we trying to achieve? What are our target industries, our target personas? Who are we going after? And what do we expect to come out of it? Those are the first things. And like I said, often it's kind of a complex landscape, and you really need to simplify to say, okay, what are
Mhm.
the three things that I need to focus on? If I'm building a portfolio of events, let's just say for a hypothetical company that sells HR tech, right? Am I
Okay.
building a portfolio for North America? Am I building a portfolio for the world? Am I building a portfolio for industry specific events? Am I going after HR as a generalist? Those are the types of questions you ask. So you can narrow down what your focus is. So let's say it's been decided that we are going to focus on HR audiences. We're going to look at tech events and we're going to look at North America. Let's just say that's the list. The next question I would ask is, are there any partner events that we need to be at that these audiences will be at? That's one. That's an important question. And it's a question that's burnt me in the past that I haven't asked. And then all of a sudden it's on my list. And because I've maybe evaluated it and it's not the right event that we should be at for the right mix, but it has to then get worked in to the portfolio. The other thing is, and we're assuming that we're focusing on collecting new names, new contacts, but also accelerating existing business,
Yeah.
because we'll come to that for a second, because third party events are really good for that as well. They're not just top of funnel
Oh,
events. Most people think they are. And so then what I do is I create an evaluation criteria. What am I evaluating the events on? What are the merits? Am I looking at number of attendees? How many of them are relevant to me? How many sponsors are there? My biggest pet peeve is we've got a 5,000 person event and they've got 4,000 sponsors that are there, and there's only 1,000 customers or potential
yeah.
customers. And I'm only selling to large enterprise, and most of them are from companies that are small enterprise. My pool of
Yes.
people has narrowed down, right? So what are the criteria I'm evaluating on? I often
Do
look
you
at
have a
cost.
ratio there? Like, do you have a ratio for sponsors, attendees, exhibitors, like in that space? Because I think people do use the metrics that they try to bludgeon out of the shows to get as much information as they can. Do you have any ratio or like numbers that, like an example that would
Yeah,
look good or be appealing?
it's all over the map, but I would suggest that you should not be really anywhere that more than 30% are sponsors.
Yeah. I was going to
That's
say 25, but yeah, no,
yeah.
it's yes,
As a
that makes
general
complete
rule of
sense.
thumb, right? And
Yeah.
so what I'll often do, because sometimes they won't tell you, is I will look at how many packages, and we'll get to the sponsorship prospectus because it's important, but I'll look at the sponsorship prospectus to see how many packages at each level are they selling, how many
Yeah.
sponsor tickets are included in those packages, and I'll create that
Great.
calculation myself.
That's great. I love that.
So, and actually the sponsorship prospectus is the most important thing. Get that and build a spreadsheet where you're looking at the number of attendees, the number of relevant attendees. So if you're to that example of large enterprise, if you're selling to large enterprise, how many of them are that? And if it's not included in the sponsorship prospectus, they want your business. You can ask these questions. You need to hold exhibit organizers responsible and accountable for giving you this information. I look at sponsor ratio to attendees. I usually create a mix for that. I look at price, obviously, and I look at price per relevant attendee.
Mm.
I look at what is included in my package and what are the additional opportunities for thought leadership. I always tell my clients, don't ever go to an event where you are just exhibiting and you don't have opportunities to drive thought leadership or content or something in addition. It's usually those won't make my list. And so once you've established this criteria and what's more important, right? So you weight these things. So maybe your number of relevant attendees is the most important thing. So that's worth 20% of your score. Maybe the price is the most important. Maybe that's 50%. Who knows, right? It all depends on your specific needs. But I create this rating criteria up front. So then I'm able to evaluate all of these different events objectively.
Yeah, I love that rundown there with the ratios and the things because what's funny is we get so many general questions about it. They're general. People are like, hey, like, how do I know what to sponsor? And typically we'll say, hey, send over the information, right? The rundown of all the sponsorships available. And sometimes the conversation we've gotten into with our clients, we don't go into the depth that you're going into there, right? Which is why you do what you do, we do what we do. And I have always said to people, like, why is your customer there? Why are they there? Because they're not there to see you. They don't mind seeing you, but why are they there? Can you understand why they're there? To me, I am then looking at those sponsorships thinking like, how can I meaningfully meet them at one of those junctures? And then I'm like a huge advertising, like old school type fan of things. So I'm always like, can I get a huge graphic and do something like outlandish that someone's like, wow, look at that graphic or something that would be fun. But that's how we've explained it to our clients at times, is like, how can you meet them in a, just having a sign on the stair? Is that really going to do it? Which one would suit your clients best? I think is the best way that we've looked at it at times.
Absolutely.
How can an event marketer pick the right mix of events, right? When they're looking at all of them and they have this data in front, say they're working with you and you're suggesting like, where is there anything intuition wise or telling signs? Like, how do they pick that right mix?
Across the customer lifecycle, you mean?
Yeah.
It really depends on the organization, but traditionally, from an event perspective, I recommend probably 60% of budget in later funnels. So from decision onwards, through loyalty, through advocacy, those are really where you can make an impact from an event perspective. And a lot of those events become your user
Yeah.
conferences and your own proprietary events. And then 40% on the front end. But that depends. That's for a more mature company. If you're a newer company that doesn't have as large of a customer base, maybe you switch the ratio and it's 60-40. But like I said, the later stages of the customer lifecycle don't discount third-party events or trade shows, because those are really important in that mix as well. So, and that's where really targeted meetings come in, right? You can use these events to meet with your existing customers or current opportunities, really target them in advance because you know that they're going to be at those events, because not everybody's going to come to yours.
I think that's such a good point for third party. Is I'm constantly in a discussion about at these trade shows, how do you show the worth of the program, ROI, measurement, stuff like that? And I always say, I use the term pipeline impact. I'm like, you should be showing pipeline impact, because oftentimes that is the goal. And I say all the time, like, yeah, net new leads, net new pipeline, new sales, great. That's easy. Everybody knows that you have to find a way to track that. But sometimes I think the things people don't think about is like stage cycle acceleration. Do you have somebody in your pipeline, and during these 3-4 events a year, you have quicker acceleration? The other one, to what you were saying, is your customers. Are you increasing what your customers are spending? Are you reactivating an old account because of a dinner, because of an interaction, because of whatever it may be? There's so much other stuff. Website traffic, conversions on the site, referral partnerships. These are all things to me that if you're trying to show the worth of your program, you have to be trying to showcase, because it's not just, oh, we had 180 leads, we had this many meetings. That's the basics. Honestly, there's so many other things that go into the touch points, and the customers, your current, is a big one.
Yeah, and you have to plan for those things, right? Those don't happen
Yeah.
by accident. You have to plan, you have to have an outreach campaign. If you're creating a meetings program, you need to make sure you're staffed for the meetings program. To your point earlier, there's all the work to make it happen. And so that's really about trying to understand who's there and the why.